Welcome to the 180 podcast, brought to you by Unibet with myself, Braith and Reni Matua. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We'll go over the ANZAC weekend, and there were some big results, big wins, big losses. Broncos, Bulldogs, Roosters, Dragons. Also, the West Tigers and Cronulla game was an absolute cracker. The referees, bunker, you name it, over the weekend. We'll touch on that. We don't want to go too far. It's been massacred this week on podcasts and shows, you name it. And we had Andrew Abdo, the NRL CEO, on 360. So we'll delve into that a little bit. We'll even touch on the Titans. They dropped for Reni, and Desi may be under a bit of pressure there. And we'll preview Magic Round, big weekend of footy ahead. So we'll go through all those games and give you our Unibet Multi of the week, which was bad last week. We got it right the first week. We got it wrong the second. But we had to pick those ANZAC Day games, which we weren't too comfortable with, because they were pretty close.
Tough games to pick. Dogs Brisbane, it was a big challenge for them, especially going up there. So,
how's your weekend? You still on track? Or
I'm on track, mate. It was good. It was pretty quiet. Sister came down from Central Coast. Megan came from Menai. So spent plenty of time with the kids.
Family time again.
Family time.
But more sophisticated family time.
Sophisticated family time.
Okay.
Didn't really leave the house, mate. It's getting colder now, isn't it?
It is getting chilly. I was cold on the way here, so to get a few hoodies, I think, over the next few weeks.
You going to sling some to me or what?
Yeah, I'll get some Nike ones for you, bud.
Nike,
always. Nike, is
Nike.
it? Oh, sorry. I've only been with them since I was 7.
Get it right, mate.
All right, now let's talk.
Jersey. Love the jersey.
Yeah,
You're a big fan of the NFL.
People play me out and they think I'm just a... because the Chiefs have done it right over the last few years, I'm just a what do we call a token supporter or a trophy hunter? Some would suggest.
Would they be the Roosters of the NFL?
A lot would say that, yes, which is probably why people take the piss out of me for going for them. But I've supported them for quite a while now. But anyway, let's move on from that. Now, let's start with the ANZAC weekend. It's been nearly a week now, but the first game, the Broncos and Bulldogs, was that a shock? How did you? I
wouldn't say it was a shock. We picked up on things from the previous week against the Rabbitohs. There were signs of they weren't. I think they had a false sense of reality of where they were. They won 32-0, but there were signs that concerned me.
Yeah,
more around their attack, and it seemed to be their defense that fell apart. Right, so we were texting all game.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have been a little bit too excited for this game?
Yeah, I've got to give a pat on the back to you, as you mentioned in the podcast last week, and both of us were very few who had seen, that result against South. It was a big one, but we were there and we watched it closely, and you and I throughout that game were like, you know what? I don't think they've played that good today.
No.
And it was a bit strange to come away from that with the Dogs of undefeated for the year. And rightly so, getting a lot of pats on the shoulder, on the back. And everyone was just like, how amazing are they? And we love them to death. We want them to win the comp.
Absolutely.
But you and I walked away going, you know what? They were not as good as what everyone thought. And it wasn't, we weren't, by no means was it their defence, because their defence was enormous against South.
Yep.
But there were just parts of their game where we thought they needed to be better.
Yeah.
And they got found out. So, a lot of the questions around the Dogs have been, and we said it again, do they have that X factor? Do they have that experience in big games to win a comp? Is that the only real area which they're not quite there yet? And that was our question mark. And the weekend against the Broncos probably showed us that, because the Broncos turned up semi-final like.
Yeah.
It was an ambush. Madge Maguire got them up. They've got some quality players, experienced players in Hunt and Reynolds. And, Cobbo was good. He's not so much experience. But, and Payne Haas and the big fellow in the middle, Carrigan. They're experienced in big games and origins and all that sort of thing. So that showed. But in saying all of that, for me, like, they just got their discipline wrong on the weekend. Like, they dropped it off the first set, conceded a try, and then it snowballed. Their defence, was it 4 blokes charged, 3 suspended, around that, whatever it may be. But I looked at it like it was probably the wake-up call they needed. Like, not a wake-up call, but it was like, okay, boys, you aren't where you think you are, which is not a bad thing at this part of the year. But I also didn't walk away from that thinking that they were they were in big trouble or the Bulldogs' run is over and they're going to crumble. And
Not at all.
Because
Not at all.
the reason I'll say it, Ren, their energy was still enormous in the game. Their speed of the line was great. Their contact, I mean, they got it wrong. They got it wrong with high shots and that cost them as well with 10 in the bins. But I still love the intent and the attitude. You know, their execution was poor. Sexton, you know, that.
End of sets.
I think it was 2-7 tackles early. Repeats, like too deep with his kicks.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that in big games.
No.
And that showed.
That showed where there's levels between Reno and Sexton. You know, there is always there's been a question mark over their spine, but it was really amplified with that big start from the Bronx. I find the Dogs remind me of the 98 team where they're good enough to get to a grand final.
Yeah.
But then if they come up against a Melbourne, like with a star-studded side, like Brisbane were in 98 when they played the Dogs in the grand final, that's where you kind of say, right, they are missing something.
Yep.
Good enough to get to a grand final. And we say this from a place of love. We love the club. There were some comments on YouTube that will, I'm not sure if you read them, but I just had a little peek and about our criticism of the Dogs, but it all comes from love, a good place.
See, people get blindsided by emotion.
Yeah.
Because do you want us to come and sit here, you know, like this is realistic. This is not how I work, you know, like we can come here, sit here with just our one blue eye and one white eye and tell everyone what they want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not how it works, right? No. We come here, we want them to win a comp. We love them to death. Yeah. They're our team.
Yeah.
But we're not going to sit here and not say things that concern us or tell the truth.
Yeah.
And look where it's got us. We've actually been right, you know, and that doesn't like that. See, that's what happens in this game is people get so emotional with their teams and they tend to overlook the reality at times, you know. The reality is they're not where they need to be, and that's evident now. But they can get there, and they can win a comp. But there's a lot of water under the bridge. There's a lot of things they need to improve. Not a lot. Their attack they need to evolve, and we said that last week. You know, Sexton can't be getting those kicks wrong. Yeah. And in those big, they're little moments that turn into big moments because momentum is everything, and gaining field position and possession. You know, which is it's interesting because the Dogs haven't re-signed him as yet.
They haven't.
So, which to me suggests that they are hesitant to re-sign him because they're second guessing. They're not sure. So they have the same concerns we do. That's what it tells me. Or else they would have re-signed him because he's not asking for that much.
Who's on the market?
Well, it's not about. I don't think it's about who's on the market now because Sexton can do a great job as it is for the next 12 months.
Okay.
But it's if someone comes up,
right,
they can't make a play if they won't have the money to do it. So I would say Gus is just being patient to see how Sexton goes the next month.
Yeah.
And whether he signs him. Because if he re-signs him, if they can get him at $500 a year, I reckon that's okay because they might have some money still to buy someone. But anything over that would put him out of the race and just commit the club to him. So it's an interesting one, that. But, yeah, again, you know, the Dogs, I think we've covered them pretty well. What about the Broncos? Because we've been pretty vocal about them as well. You know, inconsistent, maybe a bit of a lack of trust in their coach. We said last week, when they're great, they're great, and when they're bad, they're bad. So it's like one week you think they've bought into Madge, the next week you go, no, well, they haven't. What's it going to take for us to start thinking that they're the real deal?
I think it was the perfect opportunity for the Bronx to turn their season around. They were coming up against an undefeated side, a team that has the best defensive record in the competition. Yeah. It was a challenge for them to like, hey, Payne, Carrigan, the rest of them, you know, what are you guys made of here? This was a perfect opportunity. We're playing at home. It's just about consistency now, right? So what team's going to turn up this week? Do you have to play the top of the competition teams to be motivated to win? That's all. That's the only way I saw it, was that they need to be challenged. What do you do with how did you see Cobbo's game at fullback?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
they got an elite squad. Cobbo was really good because he's a big body at the back.
Yeah.
So he's great under the high ball.
Yeah.
Brings the ball back with power.
Yeah.
And gains plenty of meters.
Mm.
So he starts their sets like an extra forward, which is what you want these days out of your fullback. He's lethal in attack. He doesn't overplay his hand in attack. So he's not like a ball-playing fullback. So you don't need to try and create space for him or worry about him too much. You just got to get him involved. So then Hunt and Reynolds can take more control of the game and worry about their games more so than getting Walsh the ball at the right time, which can therefore put you off your game or detract from your what you do well, your strengths. So I think it's a good thing because having 3 superstars in the spine is not necessarily a good thing because it's hard to split roles, jobs, and to put your ego aside at times as well for the other guy. Can often overplay it. So I think he kind of settles them down. There's not much emphasis on him at the back, although he's a huge threat. Like a huge threat.
He's so good.
And he's a great target with your kick as well because he's so tall.
He was the perfect, Reece getting injured was, terrible thing, but I think they needed a different look in their shape and a person out the back. Obviously he's made a lot of errors and you can't make too many errors against the Dogs because they are relentless. So it was perfect timing for Cobbo to sit out the back.
Yeah.
There's no doubt Reece comes straight back into the side when he's fit, but I think it was everything sort of aligned for the Bronx.
Yeah, it did. They got an elite squad. Ezra Mann returns next week or the week after. Reece won't be back for another 3 weeks, I believe. So there's maybe 2.5, 3. So there's some decisions to be made there up in Brisbane, but they're really good ones. Good problem to have. So, yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. But what I'm keeping my eye on now is Brisbane play the Panthers this week. Panthers are desperate, and we'll get to them a bit later. How do the Broncos respond? Can they go back to back? Just start getting some consistency in their game. If they can do that against the Panthers at Magic Round, at Suncorp, and get back on track before Origin, then they'll start to become that premiership team or in contention, which is what we thought at the start of the year. Let's get to the Roosters who played the Dragons on Anzac Day. The Unibet experience was good. We played a bit of 2-up.
It was good.
Tim Gilbert was
I've never played before.
Neither had I.
Can you believe that?
Well, yeah.
Neither of us have played 2-up.
I was nervous because they gave us the coins and they said toss them in the air and there's like a circle you got to get him in. There's everyone screaming.
Yeah.
And I just went like that. And everyone was laughing. What the fuck have I done wrong?
Yeah.
They go, it's got to be above the shoulders and everyone's blind by that time.
Yeah.
So then then you're nervous throwing it.
I was nervous.
Who would have thought?
I had no idea what we were doing, but it was great. You know what the best thing was? I think I've reverted back to being a Roosters fan.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
No, the Buller dealers there, mate. I could not believe it.
I didn't notice, man.
Well, you did have the kids, mate, but oh, my God.
Was there girls there?
There was plenty.
Really?
Toddies, they just know how to do it, don't they?
It's a good setup there now, isn't it? You got the members section and unfortunately for us, we sent a couple of lemons in to get the tickets and the table for us at Toddy's and they missed it. So Azza and Christy, well done on that.
Mate, it was a great experience. I'd never been to the new stadium. You got the caterings, Maryvale, as we just mentioned. There's chicks everywhere. I was like, I'm coming to every Roosters home game.
Did you talk to any?
I didn't really have an opportunity.
Is there an earthquake?
So, mate, I had a good time there. The game itself, Dragons were disappointing. They just don't. They're just so inconsistent with their form. Anzac Day game, 2 years in a row, they've had big scores put on them. How do you see the Dragons?
Yeah, the Dragons. They've been every game they've played this year. They've put effort in, and intent, and their attitude has been good. Their execution has let them down in a couple of games, Parramatta and South, which they should have won. So. Going into the game, I was quite confident that they would – I wasn't confident they'd win it all. I thought it was a toss of the coin. But I was confident that they'd turn up and like they hadn't done in the months prior, which would make it a good contest. 10 minutes in, we looked at each other and went, this is going to be a carve-up. Roosters are going to kill them. Yeah. Like you could just tell from the energy, the speed of the line, the few opportunities they did have were ordinary. They didn't turn up. The Roosters – on the other hand, they've done it to Brisbane and Penrith now, where in the first – they're the opposite. In the first 10 minutes what teams turned up. And they've won both of those games against quality teams Penrith maybe not so much. We're not sure about them yet, but the energy is just evident. Like you just like, mate, they're here to play, and that was the case. Just on the Roosters, Sandon Smith,
he was great.
It's funny because on NRL 360 on the Wednesday before the game, because I talk to people at the club too, so all the information I get, from not only my own thoughts and I suppose opinion, but also that of people inside the four walls.
Yeah.
And Sandon he hasn't played that well this year. He's played solid, but not.
He's a goer.
He's a goer.
Yeah.
But he hadn't really stood up in the absence of Sam Walker. And I said on 360, he's underachieved this year given the circumstances, and he needs to be better. If the Roosters are to be kind of any chance of not only winning on Anzac Day, but moving forward before Sam returns. So Sandon's got out there and killed it. Like that's his best game ever in a Roosters jersey by a long way.
Well.
And if he can maintain that form, with Hugo Savala, who's a great partner in crime, because they complemented each other the other day. But there's a lot of work to be done there still.
Yeah.
But if they can sort of turn up and produce what they did the other day with Sam coming back, they will be on the edge of the 8 if not in it.
Yeah.
They got 2 buys over the next 5 weeks, I believe. So that's automatic 4 points. Haven't had a buy yet. So they're actually sitting better than what people think. And Reedy writ them off and said they wouldn't make. He said they wouldn't be in contention for.
I didn't
finals.
think they'd make the 8.
You were pretty hard on that too.
Yeah.
But a funny one with the Sandon Smith, and I get this, but after the game I get home, put the girls to bed, and my phone I get a couple of Instagram messages, from like DMs. I'm like, who's this?
Your DMs.
Oh yeah, Sandon Smith this, Sandon Smith that. Mocking me from what I said on Wednesday.
Right.
And then I push on the profile pic and I zoom in, and it's a guy like this with Sandon. It's obviously his best mate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, good on you, bud. You've just won the game. The first thing you think of is me. And I wasn't bagging the guy. I just said he'd underachieved. But I get it. If my mates did that when I was playing, thank you. I appreciate the support. But it's funny that I had another one from one of his other mates, and I'm like, the boys are at about 28 schooners, and their best mate's got the ANZAC medal, and they're just firing shots.
He's got to back it up this week, so they've put him under pressure.
Well,
he'll be in the firing line.
You know what I'm like? I couldn't help myself. I said to him, mate, amazing win, incredible performance by Sandon. I'm happy for him. I want him to play like that every week.
Of course.
I said at the end, all right, but was I wrong about the first?
Yeah.
Was I wrong?
Nah.
I'm not, again, you talk about the Bulldogs fans getting emotional. It's such that, it's such tribalism in our game. And I love the loyalty. And I love it how people go into bat for him, but people kind of overlook, you're not having a crack here. You're just sort of telling it how you see it.
Especially if they've had 28 schooners, they're going to come back.
But I get it. But going back, so they were great. Sandon was great. Roosters will be fighting for a semi-final spot. I'm just sure of it. The Dragons.
Mark. Would you pick him in Origin?
No.
On the wing? No, not even close?
He's not ready for Origin. You disagree if you want.
No, I just think he's a pure athlete. And you said it the other week that he plays better on the wing because he's only got to make one decision.
I'm a fan of his.
Yeah.
But he's not ready for Origin.
Yeah.
He's just learning the game. Put him in Origin, Suncorp Stadium against Queensland, which they will just target him relentlessly. And a guy who's just he knows the game well, obviously, because he's been really good for the Roosters, but he's not quite there to pick him at Origin. That, to me, that's premature.
He's not far off.
He's a good year away.
Yeah, okay.
In my eyes, he's not ready for Origin. Like he's his defensive reads. They won on the weekend by a long way, so it's easy to but the Dragons they were shocking.
Yeah,
let's be honest, they were bad, man.
Really bad.
They were bad. So you can't get ahead of yourself. Again, it's very reactional. Everyone's reactive. Sorry, everyone's reacting to, and that's what our game's about. He is a quality player. And he is a rep player.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be he just needs to focus now on getting it right for the Roosters and nailing that. And then once he does that and he's consistently performing in both defense and attack, then he's an Origin player. But
if you've got Tortoy out, you've got Lomax out. I think we're a little bit thin.
I think that's why that's why they're looking at it. That's why he's been tossed up because Carraz and like his name's been tossed up.
Yeah.
Even Taruva's got tossed up. So they're the caliber of player they're looking at the moment. If you compare him to those two, if we're going,
that's your options.
That's your options. He becomes an option.
A genuine option.
I still wouldn't yet, but like I understand the argument there now.
Yeah.
If that's the case, right? But I'd even play Tommy on the wing before I'd play any of those three.
Mate, the way Teddy's playing, how do you keep him?
That's what I mean. You'd find a way with Latrell, Teddy, and Tommy. You'd find a way to put one of them. I'd put one of them on the wing before I'd go for the options you've just given me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep. You're right.
I'd go for one of them.
Yeah,
like that's just my take there. Dragons got a touch on it. Lachlan Ilias dropped.
Yep.
Bit of a tricky one, but this is our podcast. We can have our opinions.
Yeah, of course. So look, I watched Lockie from the stadium, and I just thought, this is a big game. It's a big occasion. Like, take the game by the scruff of the neck. Get an early carry. Get deeper into the line. Put a shot on. Just find a way to bring yourself into the game early.
Yeah.
I just feel like, and we've spoken about halves being hesitant.
Yeah.
I know it's a big thing that you've spoken about before. When you're hesitant, you're not confident, and I can just see that a little bit in his game. I can see it in Flano's game a little bit as well, but I feel like Flano's competing more. Yeah. He won't. He'll leave no stone unturned, I believe, Flano. He'll try hard. Have you spoken to Lockie?
Yeah, I spoke to Lockie. Well, I mean, Buzz writes an article Sunday afternoon saying he thinks that Lockie will get dropped. And I'm like, well, he's mates with Flano. So if he's writing the article Sunday Arvo, that means he's getting dropped.
Okay.
You don't need to be Einstein to work that out. So then I was expecting it. Then Lockie rang me lunchtime on Monday and told me straight away, just been told. And I said, mate, I kind of knew that was going to happen. He goes, oh, why? I said, oh, mate, Buzz wrote something on Sunday night, So he'd spoken to Flano and Flano had teed him up. I'm assuming, that's not facts, but come on, let's be honest. So then, but he's great. Lockie's such a great kid. Like, he handles everything with such class. He's not a dummy spitter. He doesn't ring up complaining. He's such an amazing young human being, and I was proud of him, like, because he's had a lot of pressure on him. He's kind of been a scapegoat a few times now.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to be too strong on it because it looks like I'm being biased. But the reality is, like, even when South dropped him, they were coming last, playing terrible, and they dropped the 7. And even at the time, it's like, come on, man, he's not the reason you're coming last. Like, far from it, And then they went and bought Dodd, and look at where he is, you know. So I feel sorry for him. And then, even on the week, a few weeks ago, I think it wasn't right, the criticism of him, although he needed to be a lot better. And I was critical of him too and said he's got a month. Yeah. After that month, he's come out and beat, he outplayed DCE there at Four Pines when they beat them. DC didn't have his best day, but he outplayed him, and so did the team. They won away from home there, and they beat Titans by 22. And that was his best game of the year. He ran for like 80 metres, couple of little half breaks, kicking game really good, couple of nice passes. So the thing with me is if you weren't going to drop him 3 weeks ago, if you didn't drop him, why would you drop him after 2 wins and then a game where they were all shit?
Everyone was poor.
And the Roosters ran for 550 metres more than them. So what you're saying is right about Lockie. I think he can take the game by the scruff a bit more, right? I actually agree with you there. Flano ain't doing much better, right?
Not much better.
So, and Flano's not, is he a 7 or a 6? Like this week they're putting Tongia. Is it Tongia? Yeah.
Tongia, yeah. Do you know much about him?
No, I've heard he's a good player. He's got plenty of potential, but they've picked him at 7, which is not going to happen. Flano will go to 7 and Pongia, sorry.
Tongia.
No, Tongia.
It's Tongia.
It's King Tongia.
King
Tongia. So they've put Flano's going to be a 7.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, why didn't you name him at 7? To me, it's like, oh, you're not naming him at 7 because then he's got the 7 on the back, then he's got the pressure on him. And it's, like King Tongia is a 5'8". He doesn't play 7.
The father-son relationship's always going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan and Ivan struggled in their first year together, maybe from memory, but it opens up conversation.
It does, and a lot of people have told me that on their, website, chat sites and all that, there's a lot of talk around it. And Buzz mentioned it yesterday on Triple M, the nepotism thing, and I don't think so. I just think when you're making these big calls on the other half in your team and your son's the other half, it's going to raise questions and eyebrows, right? But yeah, I think it was just a bit strange, the timing of it, considering the side. But let's move on from that. The big one over the weekend was the referees, Reni. Everyone knows they over-reffed. The bunker jumped in too much. The sin bins were crazy. I think it was 18. So we don't want to go on with this too much because everyone's sort of spoken about it quite a lot. We had Andrew Abdo on 360 on Monday, which was really good because not often do you get access like that in a scenario like this, because obviously he took ownership and he knew that he wanted to get on the front foot. He's a really good leader, Andrew. Whether you love or hate the position the game's in at the moment and what the referees are doing and where the game has got to, he's like, no, we need to change this. We need to own this. And he come and faced up to the music, which I rate, you know.
Yeah, I do too. My takeaway from seeing Abdo on 360 and watching a little bit of Channel 9 is that the referees might have just gone a bit rogue with this whole thing. We said 4 weeks ago, why are they making this public? Why are they saying they're going to not crack down, but really look for the high shot, put people in the bin? And it did feel like a crackdown, and it's got progressively worse. It got out of control on the weekend. The one for me was the Pole one that was enough for me. I'd seen enough. And then you've got to get the eighth immortal to absolutely go off about it before we see some change. It was extremely frustrating to see the game like that. Penrith Manly game was a mess.
Was I messaging you in that game? I think I was.
Yeah.
That game was the lots of building or something going here. The Penrith game was a shocker in terms of officiating. I think there was 16 penalties. There was 8 players put on report, maybe, or 8. I think there was something like 8, 3 to 4 sin bins, maybe. And then there was, this is roughly, and then there was, but the alarming thing for me was there was 4 captain's challenge for 4 wins.
That's bad.
So if you put all that together and you think, who's refereed this game? And mind you, there was only 1 player suspended, Sorensen, from all that. From 16, 8.
Who was in the bunker? Was it Klein?
I think it was.
It was Klein.
And who refereed?
I don't know her name. I felt sorry for her.
But what do you mean you felt sorry for her? Well, how can you feel sorry for a referee?
Yeah, you can't.
Like, I know, I don't know. It's hard to even talk about.
It's hard to talk about. Yeah.
But if you're feeling sorry for someone, maybe they shouldn't be doing the job.
That's right. You're
I don't want to be like,
right. You don't want to put these male or female. You put in a high pressure situation. It's irrelevant. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
And it's irrelevant, mate.
Yes,
and
exactly.
we should be able to sit here and be critical of that performance, regardless of whether they're male or female.
Yes.
And this is when, like, again, we sit here and we can tippy-toe around, you know, but we tell it how it is. Yeah. She didn't referee the game, you know. It was penalty, stop, penalty. Like, some of them weren't even getting hit in the head, and there was penalties. And then the 10 in the bins were soft as you know what. It's like, man, this game lost control. And then 4 captain's challenges. How often do you get 4 that are all successful in a game?
Yeah.
So to top off all that, you know, anyway, I don't want to harp on that, but that's kind of going back to what, because I pulled Abdo up a little bit. Abdo said, you know, the bunker this, the bunker that. The players have got worse. There's more high shots now than there's ever been. It's gone up 90%. I'm like, hang on. And I showed a few examples of apparent high shots where the player doesn't even make contact with the head. Then you've got the high shots where it might just go like that. Like,
so he's including all those ones that aren't really.
Are the players getting worse, or are you guys over refereeing like the games? It's a combination. I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
But there's no way our game over the past year or two has gotten that bad to the extent in which they are officiating it.
It's a shame that it got to this point, right? It was the game's flying. It's going well. First 4 rounds, it was going great. And then they decided, we're going to police this a bit more. And then it just got progressively worse, as I mentioned. and they are under that much pressure. What I find with this whole high shot, yeah, they're trying to protect the player, but they're trying to protect themselves from a lawsuit as well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where a lot of the fans. Well, I think a lot know now, but there is. It's like in the Super League, and I managed Willie Peters, and Willie messaged me after the weekend. He left a voice note, and he said, "This is where we were a year ago." So everything that was touching the head was either it was a send off or, he said the game just went to. And I remember watching a few of the games over there. It was bad. Like you would touch someone here or here, and you were gone. And he said, and that there's law. It's a lawsuit over there, or it's protecting the game from potential lawsuits. And that's where we're at. That's why the game is very. But our leadership won't let the game go to shit to protect the lawsuit.
I'm nervous about the Magic round.
I'm not.
I am. I'm nervous. I think we're going to see some genuine, maybe high shots, maybe shoulder to the head that are going to be let go now because they're going to be given.
Wouldn't you rather them let it go?
Yeah, and let the match review committee deal with that. Yeah. Absolutely,
you'd rather
absolutely. But they're going to be scared to blow the whistle now. This
good.
Well, good. Yeah, good. But
good. As long as, they're not going to be silly enough. Let's hope that if it's a genuine high shot that knocks a bloke out or splits him or even just they're going to pull that up. Yeah. Like it's a lot of it comes down to common sense. We've lost our common sense.
Yeah, we have.
Like anyone who knows anything about the game should watch it and know what the right calls are. Yeah. Like it's not that hard. It isn't.
It ain't hard.
Like we're all sitting there, the majority of us is going, that is not a sin bin, or that's not even a penalty, or that's that. Everyone's on the same page apart from the officiator, the referees, the bunker. So I'm not worried. I think it'll be a huge difference. I really do.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Panthers. They're in last. They're in last position.
You know what? With Penrith, they are trying so hard. Their effort is there.
What is it then?
I think a lot of inexperience, obviously losing their players, but their inexperience, we said a couple of weeks ago, mix your edges up. Why have you got the left edge, McLean, Talangi, Sorensen, and the young winger together? Bring over Liam or Tungle, swap the centres. There's too much inexperience on one edge. Yeah. And nothing, they're playing, I don't know whose take I saw it, but they are playing very predictable.
Was it Cooper and...
Yes, Cooper and Matty. So those drop plays, when you have a different roster, that was working. He has to innovate.
The setup for the shot, they don't have the firepower anymore. Nah. So they're setting up, but they're not. Then teams are ready for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it, but someone else told me what you just spoke about. And it is this roof going to fall in or something? For those, I don't know if you can hear or not, but there's just something's going up there. It's not what you think it is either. What I kind of think about when you're out of form with those drop-offs, it's because you got no other option, and it's so pre-line that it's kind of just an option. I know, like Nico Hines does it when he's not in form. And a lot of players, I remember I used to do it when I was out of form. You're just looking for that easy drop-off, but it does nothing. And then it actually gets the defence. It gives the defence more time and an extra play to set up for the next one because it's not impacting that tackle.
It's not disrupting the defence
at all. You can get 2 or 3 in. You know it's coming. There's no other options.
Yeah.
And then it actually gets the defence more time to reset for the shot.
Yeah.
And I think when you're not quite in form, that's the play you resort back to, They had so many moving parts over the years, the past 4 or 5 years, where they had quality players in every position who had X factor and star power and speed and agility, where they had 3 or 4 options on every play.
Yeah.
They had they
showed that one on that left shift. Yeah.
Or the block cutout.
They had one at the last year where 3 weeks in a row they showed a different variation of that shift. Yeah.
And now it's just like it's not as effective. But one positive for the Panthers, well, I don't know, when they get Toto back, they've missed him big time. He's so damaging
extra forward,
out of
we
their
spoke
end.
about,
You know,
yeah.
like I think that's a big one for them. But with every loss, and let's be honest, like it was unbelievable what they were able to achieve to win 4 in a row, be in 5 grand finals, to have the desire even after winning 1, let alone 2, 3, 4, to the desire and that hunger to keep performing the way they did and win premierships. We had it after 1. It's
We had it
hard.
after one. That's what's the biggest thing for me with Penrith is being able to get up pre-season after pre-season after pre-season after winning 3 in a row, 2 in a row,
Yeah.
and just be hungry to do it again.
I think for the first time in 6 years, they've got to a point where they're not confident. The belief's slowly deteriorating, and they're thinking, you know what, this is probably the end of a little bit of an era here. And they're actually starting to believe that. Whether they, subconsciously, I think it's probably for the first time, because they never went through a period where they lost 2 or 3 games in a row. They'd always bounce back from a loss if they lost, and they'd always have next man up. The next man's not coming up.
No.
So
No.
I think it is the end.
I think it is the end.
I don't think they can win the comp.
No.
This is the first week I've said it.
Well, I don't think they'll make the 8.
Well,
especially with the Origin Cup period coming up.
Yeah. Well, that's another. We may as well dive into that quickly.
Yeah. You lose Edwards, Liam Martin, Torr.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to talk about. So all this talk around Cleary goes in, who's going to partner him? Does that change now? So they got incumbents in Moses and Luai that won the series in the last game last year. Everyone just thought automatic Cleary because he was injured, and who's going to partner him? If you're Laurie Daley now, do you not like Luai in form? Not great form, but in form. Moses great in his return.
I wouldn't be mad about him picking the incumbents.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Whereas a month ago, you probably
he said on 360 that
he kind of danced around a little bit. I don't know if it was a clear one.
Yeah.
But the expectation of everyone was you just have to pick Nathan.
Team gets picked tomorrow. Who do you pick in the halves?
Oh. Wow. You know what? I'd probably pick Cleary and Moses.
Yeah.
But over the next month, I think it's going to be critical for Nathan to find form and the Panthers, because if they continue the slide, I reckon he'd stick with the incumbents. Right now I'm picking him because I love him and I think he deserves it, right? But you want a player who's – because he's never dominated Origin either.
No.
So you want a player who's not only in form, but he's confident, high on belief, and he wasn't even in the winning series last year, so he doesn't even bounce in like he bounces in under more pressure because they've brought him in over the top of someone who won the series last year, and he's not playing where he wants to play, like in terms of form. Ooh, Laurie's got some big calls to make, which leads to the other ones, right? What would you do first?
Right now, tomorrow, I'd pick the incumbents.
Yeah.
I think he's just struggling a little bit with confidence, and going up to Suncorp game 1 ain't going to do much favours for him.
And I like the fact that just off the back of that, pick and stick and being loyal to the players that have got it done. You know, like if Cleary was forcing his hand that hard like he would have been years gone by and 4 premierships and all that, that's a different story. But a bit of loyalty there, a bit of giving back, and that's what Queensland tend to do. I actually think Laurie will stick with the incumbents if it stays the way it is, because it's easier to do that too. Anyway, but with the others, is Edwards a walk-up? I don't know about that. And then I would pick, like, this is my opinion before I get to you, is Edwards a walk-up start with Tedesco playing the way he is and whoever else? Then you've got Liam Martin, who, for me, is a walk-up start every year. He's an Origin player. That's just my opinion. I don't care how Penrith are going. I'm picking him. Azeo and Torr.
Yeah. You pick Torr if he's fit. Definitely. Yoey's a walk-up.
He's a walk-up, Yoey.
Yeah.
They started him on the bench last year, Yoey.
We played 13, Cam Murray.
Yeah. For game 3. Pretty sure. I'm at least 1 or 2 of the games. Yoey wasn't even starting 13.
He's in the side.
Okay.
100%. Liam Martin looks tired, but he's an Origin player. You put him around that group and that energy around the most elite players in New South Wales, he'll lift. Nathan's the only one I've got question marks over at the moment.
What about Edwards?
Edwards, man, that's That is so. Like carrying the groin injury, Teddy the way he's playing, Turbo the way he played last week, just given around the fullback.
That's
They
what
didn't
I'm
worry about
saying,
the
like-
wing. It's like, it's actually it's not a luxury for Laurie. This is a headache for him. You know,
I don't
everyone's
begrudge, I
like,
don't begrudge
luxury,
the
I've got
position he's
depth.
in, man.
This is it's not the Origin series you want to come back to, you know.
No,
like,
not and they're a different coach too.
different.
So like,
yeah,
you know,
I don't
Madge
know.
had them just teed up and ready to rock, and couldn't have coached them better. And even the way he handled the media and he handled Queensland and the way just the players bought in, and you know, it's a whole new coach. And then are they going to change or keep the same players? Like
Teddy's form, like given that he didn't play Origin last year, did he play game one? He only played game one. Was Edwards out game one?
I think he played game one. That was it. Wasn't
But
it?
anyway, not going into a series and getting bashed up for those 3 games.
Yeah.
His footy just has improved and improved. Maybe Teddy gets to Teddy and he says, "Listen, I'm playing good at club. Like my body's feeling great, and I don't want to play."
Yeah, maybe.
But
who knows?
But he's been absolutely outstanding.
All right, there's some big decisions there to be made by Laurie Daley heading into the Origin series. Before we get to the Magic Round preview, let's talk about the Titans just quickly. Yeah. Titans are underachieving. Desi probably under a bit of pressure now. I think they've lost 4 on the
4
trot.
in a row, yep.
And David Fafita dropped for this week.
They seem to be starting well. They can put points on the board early. They just can't hold on to a lead. It's tricky. I've played under Des. He's a complicated character. He's very thorough. Like video sessions go a long time. But I think back to when I had Des, I had James Graham, Dale Finucane, Josh Jackson, Michael Ennis, all great leaders.
And a bit of the old school in them.
Old school.
So suited Des.
Suited Des, but it suited Des because they could filter it through to the playing group. And then I look at the roster the Titans have, and it just.
What about the roster that Manly had when he was successful there?
Yeah, Chocky, Snake, Gifty.
They are all old heads, like experienced heads who were old school players and people.
Yeah,
like they were the last generation of rugby league players. You know, from yesteryear.
Yeah.
You know, and the Dogs similar in that breed of you know, and listening to you and other players that have played under Des, I fear that he's lost his touch, and those long videos and the old school way in which he approaches the game may be lost with the new generation. You know, he's got a lot of Polynesians, a lot of young kids up there, a younger squad. You know, the generational switch now from when we played to the way that the game is now and the players are and the personalities, and it's a different world. And maybe it's just wearing thin up there.
I see that roster and I look at the roster and think you can't make it too complicated for those boys. And like I said, he's very, very intense and very thorough.
All right, let's get into the preview for Magic Round. Exciting weekend, all games at Suncorp Stadium. I'm only going up for the Sunday, which I'm happy about. I love it up there, but I've done it every year.
3 days in the Valley for me wouldn't work.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't watch any footy. Let's start with the Sharks up against Para. Sharks.
Para coming off the bye.
Yes. So the Para beat the Tigers on Easter Monday with that magnificent performance from Moses. So they had the week off, and then we got the Sharks who I think the Tigers were the better team, but the Sharks should have won the game when they had ample opportunity in the end. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel sorry for Nico, you know, to go for that field goal, 50 out, hit the upright. I'm just thinking, like, just someone give this kid a break.
That could have been a moment for him, couldn't it?
But having said that, I don't think they started too well against the Tigers. Tigers did play well. They're coming up against Para, who haven't been great, let's be honest. But with Moses back in the side, you know, they tend to lift. They will lift, and they're much better kicking game. I can't see the Sharks losing this one.
Okay. Well, Parramatta were an entirely different team with Mitchell Moses in it. And the question mark before that game from us was, you know, it's hard to pick because we don't know how different they will be with Mitch, you know, as chief half. And he was instrumental, and they were 10 times better. Still don't know what to expect to a degree because they haven't showed us consistency all year. Will they maintain that now and only get better. I think, Zach Lomax comes back in a couple of weeks. We forgot he wasn't even playing. We didn't forget, but that's a big out for that game, and they still won against the Tigers team that played pretty well.
Yeah.
So I expect Parramatta to only improve from here on in. The Sharks are a hard one. Like, I don't know. Like, they didn't play that well last week, still got in a position to win, and they just bungled up the last 4 minutes of the game, and then Golden Point. They should have kicked the field goal well before. They should have kicked the field goal in the last minute of the game.
Why don't they pull the trigger on like the third play?
They kept pulling the trigger at the worst time. They'd get a quick play of the ball in front of the uprights. And I can't believe these days, it almost looks like no teams train for a field goal. Like whenever the game is in the balance, or even before half time when you're up by 6 or 12, you can tell by the mindset of the players these days, they don't even think field goal. Like Cooper and I were watching the game, and Cooper and I used to like a field goal, but I'd think of it, both of us were similar in that way. I'd think of it, if we're 6-0 up going to the break, or 6 points ahead, or 12, if there's a minute or two to go, I'm thinking let's get ahead by 7 or 13. Yeah. It's three tries instead of 2, or 2 tries and a penalty goal, converted.
Yeah.
Like it's a big difference psychologically to you. It's a dampener for the opposition.
Absolutely.
And even in that Golden Point, or the one where they shifted it left on the siren, and they nearly scored.
Yeah.
But that play the ball, Nico was here off a quick play the ball. They wouldn't have even had pressure on him. Take the shot, man. The game's over. But they're set up these days. They struggle to get to the left post for a right foot kicker, or the right post for a left foot kicker. They go too close to the defensive line so that the defense don't have to go 10 metres back. They're rushing up from their defense, which is what the Sharks did a couple of times.
Yeah, they're looking for the perfect moment. Right? No, like if the shot's there,
and what they're also doing, not only they're looking for the perfect moment, they're playing the whole set out. You don't need to. You only need to win by 1.
I know.
Quick play the ball, take the shot if you're in position. It was so hard to watch.
Tigers weren't much better.
No, they weren't.
But
they wanted it more, had more desire, and they deserved to win because they were the better team.
Yeah, true.
So I was happy they won, the Tigers.
Yeah.
But it just frustrated me that both not many teams these days actually know what to do in Golden Point or when there's a field goal opportunity. We'd always finish back in the day with a field goal set, right? And then I'd stay and kick field goals after it. And a lot of, I just think, does anyone do it anymore?
Yeah.
Like, bizarre. Anyway, okay, so you're going.
I'll go Sharks.
I'll go Parra just to go against you, but I think Parra can win. Sharks should win it, but
they get a couple back. Idol was back.
Oh yeah.
Who else was back? I think someone else was back.
Yeah, I think Parra could really build off that win.
Yeah,
and Mitch, and they had the bye, so they'll come back fresh. Sharks have had a big start of the year. They've had to travel a lot, and then the Leichhardt on the weekend wasn't great. So Roosters up against the Dolphins. Ooh.
I missed the first half of the Dolphins.
You missed the first half. The Dolphins were incredible the first half. Like Katoa and Nikorima and all of them, the speed and the edges, and Asako kick back on the inside. Nikorima, like that, it was a masterclass. They were winning by 18.
They beat Melbourne the week before, so they just carried on from that sort of the back end of that game.
Mate, they were amazing to watch. And you're thinking, the Raiders come back against the Titans last week. They'll try and mount a comeback, but they'll need to be special to beat the Dolphins here. And, they were really good Raiders. And it shows where they're at because the 2 weeks in a row they've come from behind significantly. And they've been great, so good to watch as well. But they fell off a cliff, the Dolphins. That second half was real concerning. So just going back to this game, with the Roosters coming off that win and the confidence they get from that ANZAC Day game, if Sandon Smith can play the way that he did, and then the forwards lift as they did in Tedesco, the class alone for me, just going off the last week's performance, I'll go the Roosters, but with no confidence because the Dolphins are dangerous.
Yeah, they're a dangerous team. They're a very dangerous team. I'll just go against you on this one. I'll go with the Dolphins. Play up there.
Yeah.
I'll stick with the Dolphins.
All right, now South's taking on the Knights. Oof, both of these teams struggling. Faith in Braith got up last week again. I took South with the start against Melbourne. I thought they'd compete and be tough, and they did. Melbourne too classy, but I think they had a 12 or 14 point margin. I thought they'd cover that, and they did. So thanks for getting that up for me to the Bunnies. But this is an interesting one. Whiten at 5'8",
He's left Dodd out again, eh?
Yeah, the big signing.
Mm.
Jaden Sullivan at half. Dodd can't even make the squad.
Yeah, wow.
On $650 a year. He can't even make the squad. Like, he may as well go home.
Yeah.
Like, no, like...
How long did
if
he
you don't have
3 years? 3 years?
I don't know, man. It was at least 2 years. I think it was 3. If they have to pay him out, right?
Well, he ain't leaving without a payout,
No,
right?
they'll pay him. They have to. If they don't want him. That's $1 million they've just pissed up a wall.
They'll bring Reno back.
What do you think they'll bring Reno back?
They'll bring Reno back.
Do you reckon they'll make a play?
I think there's a play. I think it's already starting. You can't bring over a genuine half and then not even have him in the team this week. With Cody out.
I think it's a good move getting Reno, but then you'd have to sell him, give him $1 million to go home, and then you have to pay $600-700 for Reno.
So that doesn't pay. If you pay,
no, it's off the cap.
It's off the cap.
So
right?
they'd have the money if they got rid of him. They just have to pay that money that they were paying Dodd to Reno, but they cost them $1 million. Like just
you're gonna have to pay it because if you look at Brisbane and they've reportedly said they've only got 300 left in their cap. I don't think they're looking to the future. I don't think they're going to move too much around to maybe keep.
No, as I said last night, though, like if Reno wants to stay there, which he does, and he's got a house there, his family is settled, and he goes, "Listen, I'll take 400, but I'll, But then
what about the market value? Because I heard you.
Yeah, I know that's a bit. But how do you, how do you say to a player? No, you're not allowed to stay in Brisbane for 300 less than where you go somewhere else.
It's
you're not allowed to. Well, hang on. I like the lifestyle here. Yeah. I've earned all my money. I own my house. The money to me is not everything.
Mm.
Like if that's your argument, I'm not saying this is the truth, but if that's your argument as a player, how does the NRL stop that?
Yeah.
He can get 700 elsewhere. Yeah, but he doesn't want to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And he's happy to take the pay cut. Yeah, then he'll earn his 300 or 400 off field somehow.
Yeah.
Which is where it gets grey and murky, right?
Of course.
But
it's above my pay grade.
How do you prove that, though, is my point.
Exactly.
And how do you stop someone who's happy to take less to stay and prove that they are? Something's going on there, Like that could get that's going to get interesting. I actually think, I heard on the grapevine, the Raiders are keen on Reynolds for a year.
Yeah, go to Canberra.
I'm just saying, because Fogarty goes, the Raiders, mate, imagine putting Reynolds in that team.
Yeah.
And they'd pay 700 or 800 for a year, and then they got Strange and Sanders to come in.
Yep.
The year after, and play a bit next year when Reynolds gets injured, because he'll get a few injuries and all that.
Yeah.
But then he's going to go to Canberra for a year, under Sticky.
He loves the lifestyle in Brisbane. He ain't going.
But if it's only a year and you got a chance to win a comp,
he's got more chance of going back to South.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I'm just saying that's what I've heard that Canberra are interested.
There's not too many options out there for him.
No, but he can go to me. Oh no, because they just got Fogarty.
So it's only really Canberra or
South,
or stay at Brisbane.
Yeah, the reason that it could get interesting is because this is why. Because other clubs like Raiders will go, we were offering him 7 or 8, but he's staying for 3 or 4. That's when it gets
there's the market value,
and that's why it's come up.
Right.
Okay, so who you going? We haven't spoken to the Knights. Did we even talk?
No.
They're just.
They're struggling.
Kalen. What's happened to Kalen? Is it just because do you reckon he's just over it?
You said it. He said he's over it. He does look over it.
Do you reckon he's just like, I'm not going to win a comp here. I'm getting no help. I don't know. Like, does he have not the motivation now to play at that elite level he was last year? Because
he started so well, but he can't do everything.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for him.
They get Adam Elliott back, and what's his name? Saifidi back this week?
I'm not sure. Who wins that one?
With no confidence, I'll pick. I'll go Knights.
Okay, I'll go South. All right, Warriors v Cows. Warriors just keep producing, don't they? They only beat the Knights, but they were very good over in New Zealand. And the Cowboys beat the Titans last week. These two are both teams on the improve. This is a hard one to pick. Who are you going?
I'll go Cows. I really liked what I saw from them. They moved the ball as good as anyone. Dearden running the ball. He ran for over 200 metres or something.
Yeah, Dearden's a gun.
But their shape is outstanding. Purdue in the centres. Taulangi, he can be a little bit hit and miss, but
they seem to be finding form all of individually, right?
Nanai is playing well.
He's back playing good.
They're defensively playing good, but they can fall off a cliff very quickly.
Yeah.
I like what I see from the Cows. I think the Warriors ended up smacking them last year in this game.
Go on the Cows?
I'll go Cows because I watched them closely last week.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll just go the Warriors just to stick with the theme here.
Okay.
But so far, I mean, it's nearly a toss of a coin for all of them. The next one is the Tigers up against the Dragons.
Based off what I saw last week with the Dragons, I'm going to stick with the Tigers. I backed them last week against the Sharks. I like what they're doing. The front row, Terrell May, man.
Yeah, what a player.
He's going to be hard. He played 80 minutes in the middle.
He's going so good.
He doesn't look tired. When you see players on their haunches, they're not filling the space, they're not moving from marker. He's still offloading the ball. He's chasing from marker. He's tying in. I like what I'm seeing from the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you here. The Tigers have been good to me this year when I've tipped them, but the Dragons I couldn't possibly tip after last week, and the Tigers I thought were very good against the Sharks and probably should have won by more if things had gone their way in that game. The Dragons, I expect a big improvement because Flano won't put up with that shit 2 weeks in a row. And then the changes in the halves, maybe, it might just fire them up a bit after that loss, but it could go the other way. But I'm just can't tip them. I'm going to go Tigers with you, Ren. Dogs up against the Titans. The Dogs, no Burton, no Tupanua. Who else? No Curran. I'll still go the Dogs.
I'll still go the Dogs.
Titans are in a... But it's a dangerous game without those players and with Des under pressure and all that. But I'm still going to Dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, given off what we said, or I said earlier about Des and his intensity and his detail, when they start to become when they're under pressure, he applies more pressure to his players. I don't think.
Will they respond though?
They won't respond.
I think that'll tell us exactly where the squad's at. No Fafita, no Campbell still. No good. So Dogs for both of us there. And the last one, the Panthers and the Broncos. Well, it's not the last game. It's not in order, but
it is the last game, isn't it? On the
Panthers
Sunday?
Broncos. We've missed one here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Raiders and Melbourne.
Yeah, we have.
You have. he wrote this, by the way. We'll go Panthers Broncos then. I'm going Broncos.
Just off what we saw last week, let's go Broncos.
Again, I wouldn't be shocked because they're a champion team, the Panthers. But if they are where we think they are, and they're on the slide, and they don't have the team or they're not in the headspace that they have been in years previous, the Broncos would be too good. So both of us going for the Broncos. And then it was the Melbourne Storm up against the Raiders. This is a good game.
This is another one like Brisbane for last week. The Broncos playing the Dogs. It was a test for the Bronx. Now it's a test for the Raiders. Let's see where you are.
Yeah.
They're sitting, I think, third at the moment.
Yep.
Gritty, tough, Ricky Stewart team. They've got class everywhere, but this is a big test for them.
Yep.
And you know what Sticky's like. He'll have them ready.
Yeah, he will.
Primed.
He will.
It's good timing for him.
It's really good timing to see where the Raiders are genuinely at. Yeah. I think I actually don't need to see. I think they're a good team, the Raiders, and we've said that all along. The only thing I would say this week is they've won 4 in a row. They were down 16-0 against the Titans. They were down by 18, I think, at least against the Dolphins. You cannot start slow, or you cannot do what they've done the last 2 weeks and not you concede more points, and then also can you score that many points against Melbourne?
Yeah,
they're not going to. So that's why I'm going to go with Melbourne, because I think Melbourne, they are starting to find their groove again after a bit of a question mark over them. They responded well last week. It was good to see Cameron and Jerome moving the way they were, and Pappenhausen, I was a bit concerned. Harry not there, it still worries me because that's a good security blanket for them, and they're not as good without him in it.
Who's playing 9?
Garlic.
Yeah.
Who's really just a provider, right? Like he's a good player.
Yeah.
But he's just, pass, run every now and then, not too creative out there, which is not bad because it gives Jerome and Cameron more opportunity to sort of be creative. And even Pappenhausen's been more involved since Grant sort of has been out. But, I think I'm going to go with the Raiders. The Melbourne Storm.
I'm going to go Raiders.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's finish with our Unibet Multi. There's no Aaron, so it'll just be us two with a leg each. I'll start us off while you can think about it over there because I know you haven't thought about it.
I haven't thought about it one bit, mate.
I'm going to go Melbourne because Melbourne with the start, which I think's around 5 or 6. You'll have to check that. We don't have our man Aaron with his computer, but I think it's around 5 or 6 they got to give away Melbourne. I think if they win, they'll win by 6 or more, Melbourne. And I do like them this week. So that's my faith in Braith as well, and my leg in the Unibet
you've left it hard for
Multi.
Me. I would have went the Raiders. I would have went the same game, but picked the Raiders anyway.
You can't do that, can you? So.
Help me out here. What would you be your second faith in Braith?
Well, you like the Tigers, didn't you?
I like the Tigers.
But you don't know what the market is there or who's even favourite. I don't even know who's favourite in that
No.
game. Maybe you just tip, because it'd be pretty tight. Why don't you just tip them head to head?
In our multi, I'll go Tigers head to head.
All right, there it is, the 2-leg multi this week.
Yeah.
Unibet, it'll be Melbourne covering the start to beat the Raiders, and then the Tigers just head to head against the Dragons. So that's it for this week, and we'll see them next week, eh?
All the best, mate.
Enjoy Magic Round, enjoy the footy, and hopefully the referees pull their heads in.
See you, buddy.
What are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.